I'm excited about this. I always love coming to KOTESOL. The people are wonderful, the food is wonderful, there's so much energy. And I'm also very excited about our topic, ELT and the Science of Happiness. And let me start with a couple of things, because people have already asked me, is this the same as the plenary? No, it's about 90% different. They're obviously related, both the plenary and this are connected to positive psychology. In this one, we're going to look specifically at positive emotional happiness. In the plenary, we're going to look at kind of a larger picture. So this will primarily be different. It always helps as a presenter to have some idea who I'm talking to. Can I ask, where do you teach? How many of you teach college or university? Quite a few. High school? Junior high? Kids? Other? Business? Okay. How about people who teach everything? You heard? Business? Okay, good. So we have quite a range. And a couple of years ago, I did a talk at KOTESOL in Seoul, at Sumyong. Were any of you there? Okay. The theoretical stuff is the same. The activities and the way we look at it in the classroom will be mostly different. Just truth in packaging, right? See what we're looking at. Positive psychology and ELT and the Science of Happiness, positive psychology in the classroom. And for those of you who just came in, can I ask you to grab a hand up? Now, truth in packaging, caveat at the beginning. Some of you are going to go back to your school on Monday and say, I went to KOTESOL and did this thing on happiness, and this is great, we can use this in our classroom. And you're going to have some colleagues who are going to say, great, tell me about it. And you're going to have other colleagues, probably, who are going to say, hello. I mean, happiness. Like we're already responsible for listening and speaking and reading and writing and grammar and vocabulary and testing, and now we're responsible for happiness. I don't think it's responsibility. I think it's opportunity. But I think one bit of reality for those teachers as well as for every one of us is we all deal with educational psychology. We either do it with awareness or we do it by default, but we're all dealing with it. And we know, the science is very clear, happy students learn more. Happy students work longer at tasks. Happy students approach those tasks with more enthusiasm. And the whole time this is happening, the neurotransmitters in the frontal cortex are lighting up. Serotonin, dopamine, endorphins. And these learning centers, the neurons, are lighting up. Happy students learn more. So I think it's good science, it's good teaching to deal with that. What I'd like to do in the first few minutes is talk a little bit how happiness works. Some people say, like, so how much of it is the brain, how much is the heart? It's all the brain. We only use heart for a metaphor for emotion, but emotion is very, very important. Basically, how it works is this. You have what's called set point. And that means some people are naturally happier than other people. And you win the lottery, your happiness does go up for a little while. And then it goes back to normal. You have something catastrophic happen, your happiness goes down for a while. We come back to that set point, and that set point is about 50% of your happiness, and there's nothing you can do about it, so let's not worry about it. Now, the next part, the part that most of us think, the part of life most of us put most of our energy into is circumstances. And for this picture, I use the example of money, but that's only one small part of circumstances. Circumstances are age and gender and occupation and income and marital status and home and sickness and health and where you live and where you grew up and your personal history and your family history and the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. And this is where most of us spend most of our lives, working on circumstances and in terms of happiness, about 10%. It's really not that significant. If circumstances are only 10%, and the set point is 50%, what's the other 40%? The answer is intentional activity. We control 40% of our own happiness. Okay? think about that, 40% versus 10%. The 50% set point we can't do anything about anyway, so don't worry about it. 40% versus 10%, what we do is 4 times, that's 400% more important than our circumstances. That is huge. And we're teachers. We know the difference between the 99 and a 59. 40% is something powerful we can use. So, what is positive psychology? Okay? And just a little background. Traditional psychology is focused on mental illness, depression, mental disease. But we've come an awful long ways from Freud's couch, farther from his cigar. About 12 years ago, Marc Helgesen, who was president of the American Psychological Association at the University of Pennsylvania, while he was president of the APA, every president has a focus, and his was positive psychology. Look at mental health. What is going on with happy, mentally healthy people? Not to say that traditional psychology, mental illness, isn't important. It's very important, but so is looking at mental health, and the positive psychology movement has grown out of that. The question that logically we need to ask, why part of ELT? Well, it doesn't need to be. This is not like vocabulary or grammar or functions or reading, speak. It's not like that. But I think, as I said, any teaching involves education psychology. And we know that happy students learn more, work harder, and work with more enthusiasm. We also know that these are engaging, personalized, multisensory activities. And when we do that, there's more focus, it's good for memory, it's good for motivation. We also know that many of our students experience the education pressure cooker. Yeah, and welcome to Korea, right? I mean, it's so much like that. And I was in the Philippines a couple months ago, and Cebu, as you probably know, is a huge English language learning center focused on Korean students. And one of the specialties is Sparta courses. Yeah, because, yeah, we all know that. And because of this, there's very little time for positive self-regard, support, and maybe that can be part of it. Also part of it, where I come from, we don't just teach English, we teach people. And I think part of what positive psychology offers us as English teachers is humanistic language teaching. A chance to reach our students as people. And what's interesting is it sounds touchy-feely, it's good science. The brain likes emotion, likes positive emotion. And I want to emphasize, this is not a magic answer. This is not like, Harry Potter and the keys to English or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. This is a set of tools. And the more tools we have, the better our work. Okay, now here's the deal is, positive psychology is about understanding what's happening mentally with happy, mentally healthy people. What are these people doing? And what behaviors are reflected by that. And the good news is, scientists know. And if scientists know, then we can know. So then the question becomes, how do I get that information? How do we get that information to our students? And my answer to that, or an answer, is dictation. Do you use dictation? It's great, about 5 people said okay. Half of you are avoiding eye contact. Because we have that image. If you use dictation, does that make you a dictator? Right? But I find dictation a wonderful way to get content information across to students. So Everybody? Okay. Everyone got one? Okay. Now how this works is, you say, what number? Thank you. You say,
what number?
Thank you. And I say number 1. And you say, and I say, remember good things in your life. Remember good things. And you write it, except it's already written as the example, so you don't actually have to write it. And now, so you got sentence 1, and you also have one more sentence. Can you read yours? Okay, read yours and fill in the blank. Okay?
Yeah, just number 8.
Whichever number you got. Okay? And then take your, this is called a strip dictation, which I always have to explain because it sounds, it's not like any kind of strip. It means you have a strip of paper and you crunch it up and throw it away. Because it's a dictation, and I found if you don't have the students crunch it up, they'll say, all right, what number? Here you are. Okay. So, can I ask you to stand up, walk around, see how many sentences you can collect very quickly? Excuse me, I don't have enough time, but okay, two things. I like strip dictations because it's a student, did you get a handout? It's a student-to-student dictation. Dictations are usually short. There's no reason the students can't be dictating to each other, but I just learned a new way to do this, which I think is good. What I'd like you to do is, instead of the sentence that you're holding, you're not going to write the sentences yet. Instead, what happens, so you say, what, number 1, remember good things in your life. And you repeat it. And I make sure that she's 100% correct. And then I say, what's your sentence? Notice good things as they happen. And I repeat it, right? Now, notice good things as they happen becomes my sentence. Remember good things becomes your sentence. And I come to the next person, and you say, take care of your health and body. That becomes my sentence. And you remember good things, notice good things as they happen. So instead of writing it, you're mentally collecting all eggs. Try it. Come back, and with the person next to you, now you look at the paper and try to remember. So, sit down, have a seat, and do this with a partner. Look at the sentences. You might not have gotten all late, but you've gotten a few. What did you get? What did your partner get? And try to write the missing words. I'll give you just a second for that. Okay. So we said number 1 is okay. Next up is number 2. I'm losing the centimeter on each side of the screen. Okay. Number 2 is do kind things. Say
Thank you.
thank you. Take time for your. Do you see the memory aspect of this? Remembering this, I just learned it. It's a fairly new book from Cambridge, in the Cambridge Handbook series, called something like Memory Activities for Language Learning. Lots of interesting stuff. Next one. Forgive people who don't hurt you. And you'll notice on the strip, I defined forgive in Korean because I don't know about your students. I find of the 8 sentences, I teach in Japan, most of my students, or many of my students, don't know the word forgive. And that's why I define it in Korean there. And on my website, which I'll tell you about in a minute, you have both a version that has no definition, or you can get a Korean one. Okay? Take care of your health and body, notice good things as they happen, and to learn to work with your problems and your stress. And now, as I mentioned, I have a website, eltandhappiness.com, and all this stuff is there. It's all free. The whole website, there are like 50 downloads of different things you might want to use in your classroom. And you have that URL here. But if you go there and introducing happiness, that's where you'll find it. And you'll find the version with the Korean definition of forgiveness toward the bottom of the page. Anyway, and then the main activity download center is where most of the activities are located. Well, why the heck? How long do your students sit? I had you stand up and do this. Hour and 15 minutes? Hour, 45 minutes? You're like 10 minutes, that's it, right?
Mine stand up at least 3 times.
Excellent, excellent. Excellent from a neuroscience point of view. Because if your students sit down for 20 minutes, blood starts to flow south. It builds up in the butt, feet, lower legs. If you stand up and walk around for 1 minute, you have a 15% increase in blood and therefore oxygen to the brain. So this is a really good reason to have students up and moving, and it's a good way to justify it to your principal. They're like, what do you explain? Your class is so noisy, students are moving around, close to oxygen to the brain. Perfect, perfect. Yeah, what I often do, actually, let me get to the next slide, which will mention that. Look for chances to have them standing up. For example, dialogue practice. And what I will often have them do, maybe do something in front of the whole class, but before that, they stand up and they do the dialogue, and my pair does it for your pair, and your pair does it for my pair, and then we change, and so we do it 4 or 5 times, just to increase language practice and increase movement. Finding a partner for pair work, group work, drill, short speaking tasks. And I explain to my students why it's important, because some students, those who are haptic learners, haptic means tactile kinesthetic, they love to move. Other students are, I can't help because we got to make sure this class works for everybody, and here's what's happening to your brain. And I think it's important to share that information. Anyway, going back to our things, remember good things in your life. Say thank you. It's ironic, isn't it? You say thank you, the other person is happy, but it makes you happy too. Similar, doing kind things. That person's happy, but it makes you feel good too. It's part of the altruism that Tim was talking about. Taking time for friends and family. We're so busy. Yeah. How many of you go into a restaurant, you'll see young people sitting with each other, texting somebody else. You know, being there physically, but not actually being there with the person. Forgiving. This is hard. Forgive others, forgive yourself. Staying healthy. Noticing good things as they happen. Dealing with problems. Yeah, we all have problems. Happy people learn how to deal with them. And when I first came across this list is from Sonia Lubomirsky at University of California, Riverside. And when I first came across this 7 years ago or so, what struck me is, as English teachers, we do a lot of this anyway. You know, like friends and family, staying healthy, those are very common topics in, say, first-year conversation book. Remembering, that's grammar, that's past tense. Noticing as they happen, that's present or present habitual or present, some kind of present. Thanking and forgiving, those are language functions, language routines. So we're doing this anyway. And this gives us a chance to go so much deeper than what's your favorite sport, who's your favorite movie star. And so we're doing this anyway. How can we connect positive psychology to the classroom? So what I'd like to do is go through each one and share some ways we can do it. Starting with an activity called I Felt So Good. And I'd like you to think about a time you felt, this is multiple choice, you felt successful, you felt very, very happy, you felt loved, or you felt thankful.
You're talking about within our teaching group.
No, I'm talking any time in your life. One, just choose one. I give, brain likes choice. You know, if I say, think about a time you were really, really happy, but by giving them a choice, everybody has something to talk about. This is on the second page of your guide. And what I'm going to ask you to, if possible, I'd like to invite the Koreans to do this in English, the foreigners to do it in Korean if you can. Okay? Now, if you've only been here 15 minutes, you can't do it in Korean. I write, but if possible, because it's kind of like, I mean, what do we do every day of the week? We walk in the car, come on guys, you can do it, give it a shot, okay? So, if possible, I'd like you to just turn to your partner and talk about the situation. And partner, you have an important job, and that is WH questions. Yeah? Because when you ask WH questions, from a language teaching point of view, it's helping to further the conversation, right? From a positive psychology point of view, it's what's called active constructive responses. You are actually helping the speaker mentally reconstruct positive emotion. Okay? So can you turn to the person next to you? We'll spend just a minute or two, talk about one of these situations, partner WH questions. Remember the WH questions. Where were you? When did this happen? Excuse me. Heart check. Did talking about it recreate the emotional experience? Yeah. When I've surveyed my students after doing activities like this, and I find usually more than 85% say, yeah, I felt that way again. Just by talking, just because I'm talking about it. Exactly. And actually, I'm going to get into this in plenary later, but when we recreate those emotions mentally, it's really exciting because it's just like the good thing is happening. Okay, but I want to keep moving. Some science. I'm sorry, you're going to do something similar in a little while, okay? Okay. But isn't that great? You're in the middle of speaking, actually, we don't want to stop. Exactly. Okay, we'll be doing a bunch of things that are good. Okay. Happy people and unhappy people actually have about the same number of positive and negative experiences. Positive people notice the good ones. Negative people, and you know this. You know some people who like, today was beautiful, right? And you have some colleagues like, it's all would find the gray cloud no matter how sober the lining is, right? So it's paying attention. Noticing things. When you were growing up, did your mom say count your blessings? Yeah? From the point of view of science, she was right. Happy people count their blessings. Happy people notice the good things. I do kind things. There's a Chinese proverb I like a lot. It says, if you want to be happy for an hour, what should you do? Read a book. Eat, drink. The proverb says take a nap. And I think so many of our students are sleep deprived. And they are not aware of it. No, but I'm young, I'm a teenager, I don't need as much sleep. Teenagers need more sleep. But want to be happy for an hour, take a nap. Want to be happy for a day. Let's do something, take a really long nap. Anybody? Go to a restaurant, take a walk, it's all good. The proverb says go fishing. Now you want to be happy for a month. Pardon?
Get married.
Get married.
For a month. Only 1 month, what about the rest of your life?
Well, it's not my problem. You want to be happy for a year. And I was doing a talk in Egypt a couple of years ago, and got to this one, and this older man in the front row said, "Get married again." It's like, that's not it. For a year, start a family. Actually, the research is interesting. When you have a baby, it does increase happiness roughly 22 years later. Not my research, that's what you want to be happy for a year, inherit a fortune. That's what we said about winning the lottery. You want to be happy for a lifetime? Help somebody else. Christopher Peterson at the University of Michigan says something I really like. You know, everybody says happiness comes from within. Chris Peterson, happiness comes from within. And I love the way. Anyway, one thing I like an activity is compliments. And have you noticed textbooks almost never teach compliments? I mean, the SVOC kind, but not like, you know. So, it's like you've got a beautiful smile. That's a really nice scarf. You're really nice. Cool jacket. You're always on time. I try to convince students this is behavior, we're confident. You're so smart. You're really creative. And what I'd like you to do is turn to the person next to you. In class, I do this in groups of 4 or 5. But to make it go faster here, I'd like you to just turn to the person next to you and say, give any true compliment. So if you get to the person next to you, if you know the person, you know things like you're smart and stuff. Even if you don't know them, that's a nice shirt, beautiful smile, whatever. Right? So you've got a beautiful smile. Yeah, and that was interesting. The response, because the response is also cultural. What do you do? Let me compliment Korea. You've got a really nice smile. In Korea, what do you usually do? Which means? Okay. That's okay, yeah, okay. I live in Japan, right? And in Japan, if I say, hey, nice shirt, no, it's old. It's nothing special, right? And in Japanese culture, that's totally appropriate. Now, if you go to Thailand, or you go to Pakistan, and say, oh, that's a nice shirt, they would say, I'll give it to you. But they don't give it to you, it's just, that's what they say. If you go to Samoa, they will give it to you, so you have to be really, really careful. Now, I'm not suggesting, in English, usually we just say thank you. And I'm not suggesting that a Korean using English has to pretend they're American. They're not. But I am suggesting that it's useful to know that people have different responses. Because in East Asia, we usually deny it, right? And what does it mean if you deny a compliment in English? Keep talking, right? It's like asking for more. So turn to the person next to you, give them a compliment, just say thank you. Go. Here's our example.
Thank you very much.
After you've complimented, mental review. Like she said, I have a nice smile. Okay, and then every time you remember, smile. So, example, what did I say? And then you smile. And how many times did each compliment happen? Well, I thought of it. I thought of it. I said it. You heard it and thought about it. You remembered it. Okay, and then we reviewed it at the end. Each compliment happens at least 4 or 5 times. That was a drill. Yeah, but it was a whole lot more engaging than a lot of drills. And complimenting is a nice thing to do. It's, being kind. Do kind things in science. Life satisfaction, being happy with with life, is about 24% higher in people who do kind things. People who volunteer are on average twice as likely to feel happy as non-volunteers. And I think this is part of that positive spiral. I don't think volunteering makes you happy. I think happy people volunteer, which makes them happy, which makes them volunteer. Okay. Kindness gives birth to kindness. Greek proverb. The idea of random acts of kindness. Do things that's totally unexpected. What I do with my students is we brainstorm. What could we do? Here are some examples. Say thank you to someone at school. And I encourage my students, not just the teachers, because students know we care about them. We know they care about it. That relationship's already there. How about the cleaning people, office staff, the guards, the bus drivers? Give up your bus or train seat to an old person or somebody with a baby. Everybody knows we're supposed to do this. But I did not realize until my wife and I had a baby. Babies are so heavy. Right? And when you're on the train, smile at someone who's not smiling. And like the Prophet Muhammad said, a smile is the smallest act of charity. Pick up a bicycle that fell over. Nobody's going to know you did it. It's a nice thing to do. Pick up some garbage and throw it away. It's helping the earth. It's kind of the earth. One of my favorite, Curtis Kelly comes to Korea regularly, KOTESOL, etc. These are not great pictures. He has his students write thank you notes to the cleaning staff at the end of the school year. Then they have to clean it up. It's just a nice way. Look for little things you can do. Okay, and then ask to decide what you're going to do. What do you promise yourself you're going to do? And then tonight, think about it. Mentally recycle it. And it feels good. And how are you going to feel when you do one random act of kindness every day? So I encourage you. Still got a few hours of conference. Look at you. All right. Say thank you. This is an idea called my gratitude list. And actually, Tim Murphy talked about Daniel Pink this morning, and this is an activity I learned from Daniel Pink's book, and it's in your handout. And we're going to do a shortened version of it. I asked my student, you have 6 circles here, but I asked students to add a bunch more circles, 1 circle for every year of age. And I do this every year on my birthday. And let me tell you, a whole lot of circles, okay? Front, back, okay? But we don't have time to do it for our age. But can I ask you to spend about 1 minute? What are some things you are grateful for in your own life? Some good things in your own life. Yeah, after you run out of circles, just add some more.
This is interesting, so you're facing the thing around, just right without say thank you.
Okay, same way.
Challenge.
It's great. And I like it because, when you're my age, students is pretty easy. They're 18, 18, 20 years old, and by the time they get to the family and friends, but it really makes you stop and think, because there's so much. And everybody has at least a few answers. Can I ask, now here, I said you'd get more time to talk. Can you turn to the same partner, same way if you want to do it that way? Koreans do it in English, foreigners do it in Korean, but talk about, but wait. This time, last time the task was WH questions, right? This time, the task is shadowing. Do you know shadowing? Tim Murphy mentioned it. That's a good word. Shadowing is basically you're borrowing the speaker's words.
You're borrowing the speaker's words.
And what happens in terms of linguistics, you're holding it in working memory long enough to process it. So what very often happens, especially with beginners, the language just comes out, it's gone before you have time to really deal with it. So when you shadow, and so there are different ways to do it. Sometimes the speaker pauses to give the shadower time. So I might say, you might say, right, one like that. Other times, the shadower just does the last word, the key words. Example, when the teacher says, and don't forget that homework, and forget that homework. That's just an example. That's from Tim, by the way. So with your partner, what are you thankful for? Shadow, in about a minute or so. So if one person spoke before, maybe the other person starts this time. So look at this paper here. Enough time to get the feel for shadowing? One word, two words of caution. I think shadowing is wonderful. I think it's very, very useful. But I also emphasize to my students, it is a classroom technique. If you do it outside of the classroom, it drives people crazy. But it's a good technique. I also tell my students that, do you have any boring professors? And don't tell me their names. Silent shadowing is a great way to help yourself pay attention during a boring class. And I hope those aren't English classes, but it's a technique. They can do it in Korean too. It's a way to help yourself pay attention. All right, as I mentioned, I got this idea from Daniel Pink with The Whole New Mind. Tim mentioned this book. He also mentioned Daniel Pink's Drive. Daniel Pink's also got some great videos on TED.com and on RSA, and he's worth reading, he's worth listening to. Science. People who show gratitude, people who say thank you, deal with stress better, have more positive interactions than others, have more energy, have fewer physical problems, have healthier hearts. Yeah? Thanking is important. Friends and family, and I mentioned earlier, we are so busy. Especially in Korea, where your kids are, they get finished with school and then they go to Hagwon for a few hours, and friends and family are really important. An activity I like doing with my students is I bring in a bunch of toothpicks, and I have them, 4 or 5, and one person uses toothpicks to talk about their family. So, and I give them this is at elementary level, obviously. So this is me. My name's Marc Helgesen. This is my wife. Her name is Masu. She's a homemaker now. She used to be a nurse. She's special because she's very patient. And this is our son. His name is Kent. He used to be a hairstylist, and now he works for an internet advertising company. And he's special because he's very creative. That's what led him to be a stylist, he wanted to be an artist. Starved. And he does creativity being advertising. Memory game. What do you remember? Why? She's patient, she's a homemaker. She was a nurse. Okay, my son? And And now that was very simple, A, because I have a small family, and you only have one. The students do it in groups of 4 or 5, so it becomes more challenging. Now, another variation, which is in your handout, is I have the students draw a very, very simple picture of their family. Are Koreans good at drawing?
Yes.
So are Japanese, and they will take forever. Because they want it perfect. So I do 2 things. I ban erasers. Once it's drawn, the line is there. And I will use a timer. Okay? And if your classroom has internet, we get onlinestopwatch.com has a number of resources like this that are really useful. I say, hey, it's not my fault. It's a timer. You only got a minute. You know, and it's a way to speed them up. We won't actually do that, but you get how it works. Take time for friends and family and science. Share yourself. People who are socially open, active with friends, rate themselves as 24% happier than people who are not. It's fine to be a quiet person. People need to connect. So, forgive. This is the tough one. Yeah, because friends and family, tell me about your friends, tell me about your family. It's easy to talk about that kind of thing. Forgiveness is harder. It's kind of, okay, work with a partner, talk about a jerk. You know, you can't really do that. Nelson Mandela, who has more right to not forgive than anybody else on the planet, said, not to forgive is like drinking poison and hoping it will kill your enemies. I think that's a nice thing. There's a poster of this on my website, by the way, free downloads, a bunch of posters with that kind of inspirations. Want to do an activity? As I said, you can't really talk about this kind of thing. But can I ask you all to stand up and hold up something not too light? Yeah, pencil case is good. Cell phone's a little light. Water bottle's perfect. Hold up something. Pen doesn't really count. How about the can? Okay. And I'm going to read something to you. And your job is to just think about it. Just read silently. You put one arm straight, you hold something reasonably heavy, and take this, read this silently. Your teacher will read it out loud. Someone did something bad. Oh, I'm sorry. Think of somebody who you have not forgiven. Now what you need to know is this is only a listening activity. This may be private. I'm not going to ask you to talk about it. Okay? But actually think of somebody who did something bad to you have not forgiven. Bad? I'm going to earn your money? Yes. Someone did something to you, bad to you. Forgiveness does not mean it was okay. Forgiveness does not mean the person can do it again. Forgiveness is important for things that must not be done again. When you do not forgive, who's hurt? The person who did the bad thing usually doesn't know, or doesn't remember, or doesn't care. Anger's in your heart. You carry the weight. And it does not help to know why the person did the bad thing. Usually that person does it. Heavy, isn't it? Yeah? Well, you carry the weight, which means you have the power to let it go. And that was a metaphor. And metaphors are important. I mean, we're English teachers, and we usually only think about the language, not the literature part of it. Metaphor is important for things we can't teach directly. Great, have a seat. By the way, this little poem is on my website if you want to download it and use it just like that. Forgiveness the Science. Studies of university students thinking about hurtful memories found that those who forgive have less stress, healthier body functions, heart rate, blood pressure, Forgiving also seems connected to less anger, depression, negative thoughts, alcohol, and drug use. Yeah, it's important stuff. I love this. When you forgive, you don't change the past. You change the future. I think that's really helpful to look at. Speaking of healthy, staying healthy, taking care of your body. I like proverbs and aphorisms, as you can tell. There's one I like that says, eat right, exercise regularly, die anyway. You know, because the deal is, most of us know what to do for health. We just have to actually do it. Okay? Now here's something that's interesting. Physical exercise 3 times a week can be as powerful in dealing with depression as psychotropic drugs. Yeah. And people are more likely to keep. You don't go off exercise the way you go off drugs. So what I want to do is as I said, most of us know what to do. So the gee, I have this cough. I wonder what the matter is. I don't know. Maybe it's because you smoke. You know, like. You know, we don't actually need to. People know that stuff. So I'd like to look at more interesting things. What do you know? Okay, I'm sorry. Take care of your heart before we get to the science. Regular exercise like walking, happiness increases 12%. I can't say cause and effect, but there's a correlation. Also leads to better self-image. People who eat a lot of fruit are 11% more feeling of being able to do things and are more satisfied. I love this. This is fascinating. Smoking takes 3 to 6 years off your life. Everybody knows that. Unhappiness takes about 9 years off your life. And if you're an unhappy smoker, you're dead. This is the Milwaukee nun studies. And nuns, these are not nuns who smoke, okay? The nuns are really interesting because they all have the same pretty bland lifestyle. So they're great to study. What happens, these nuns go into the convent when they're very young, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they write an essay. And some of them were, it was a positive thing. It was like they were marrying Christ. Okay? These are Catholic nuns. And some of them were kind of like running away from the 40 years later, something like that, they analyzed it, found the positive and the negative nuns, and most of them didn't fall in either category. The nuns who entered the convent happy lived about 9 years longer. You know, it's probably better the unhappy ones, probably. Anyway, I find that fascinating. Related to smiling. What do you know about the science of smiling? It cheers people up. Yeah, just smiling. Smiling is contagious. Yeah, you smile, the other person smiles. Do you know why? It's interesting. Scientists now think they know why. Because you know there are fake smiles and real smiles. Duchenne smile. Duchenne is a real smile, and sometimes called a say cheese smile or a flight attendant smile. We reflect smiles, and so we learned they became contagious, so we can figure out if the person's really smiling or not. Whether it's true. But anyway, okay, we reflect them. What else? Less wrinkles? Although some more wrinkles, but they're good wrinkles. I'll tell you that. That's how you tell a real smile from a fake. Yeah, all right.
So against the thing when it's small. Your eyes.
Yeah.
Your eyes are that.
Yeah, that's how you tell if it's a Duchenne smile. It's in the eyes, it's not in the mouth. Okay, anyway, just makes us more attractive to other people, changes our mood. Just the act of smiling makes you feel better. It's contagious, we talked about that. Reduces stress, boosts the immune system, lowers blood pressure, releases endorphin and serotonin in the brain, neurotransmitters. Makes you look younger. It's related. And people sometimes are surprised when I tell them I'm 65. Because I'm not, but I am 57. But I am 57. Smile, it doesn't make you look. It makes you seem successful. It helps you stay positive. So I want to do an activity this activity is experimental. And by experimental, I mean a little weird. What you need is some blank space. So on your handout, there's some space here. Oh, I forgot to tell you, on your handout, the answers to that first dictation are on the back. But you have some space here. And what I would like you to do, this is smile writing. Our structure is name, and this is your name, is blank. And some kind of positive adjective goes there. Is great, is wonderful, is brilliant, is super student, in our case it's a super teacher, fantastic. And what you do is, this helps if you have something hard, like your conference handbook. Put it on the back of the paper, and put your pen in your mouth this way, okay? and you write using a pen your name is, and then some positive adjective. Okay? And it's crazy, it's crazy, but there's a reason we're doing it. Okay. And then, yeah, when you finish, turn to the person next to you. Can you read their sentence?
Great. Is that right?
Now, when you're doing that, feels kind of funny, right? Pardon? Exactly. You are locking your mouth into a smile, and that releases positive neurotransmitters. Even that's the thing about smiling, and related is laughter. And the guy who started laughter yoga, his mantra is fake it till you make it. Because you start off, even if it's a fake thing, your brain doesn't know, and you are positive, processing positive. So laughter is the best medicine. We reflect smiles and frowns. We talked about this. 1 minute of heavy laughter is the same health benefits of a 1-hour workout. And I have to say, I've only found one source saying that. Sounds pretty extreme, but the guy's name is Sicky. I love that. This is cool. This is interesting science. In a study of heart attack victims, 43% of the control group had another heart attack within the next year. Only 8.3% of the experimental group, the intervention, 30 minutes of humor video a day. And it doesn't matter what kind of video it is, as long as you think it's funny. Okay, so if you like Seinfeld, do Seinfeld. If you like Three Stooges, do Three Stooges. Whatever you think is funny.
The clubs in India, aren't they? In Delhi and Bombay,
They are.
where they actually have laughing clubs.
They're all over the world.
They so much running. They actually do. They go to a park. Usually it's older people, isn't it? Older people. And then in the park, maybe at sunrise, they get up and they just laugh.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yeah. Actually, that's right. I've done the train. The guy who started is Madan Kataria. He's a medical doctor from Mumbai. And he started kind of like in Taiwan or China, where he goes to the park to do Qigong, Tai Chi. It's like that. Okay, stand up. There are three, I'm sorry, I left this out. Actually, on my website, there's a handout of about 15 or 20 laughter yoga exercises. There are 3 key points. Number 1, as you do it, you clap. And clap this way, not like this. Kataria says it's to maximize the pressure points, like in acupuncture. Okay? And you make eye contact. That's the key, because laughter is contagious. So instead of everybody looking at me, can you turn and make some circles? Yeah? And fake it till you make it. So you start off more than 2. Maybe 4 or 5. Yes. 4 or 5, 4 or 5, 6. Ready? So what we're going to do is up, up. want to do this in your class, great, have a seat. If you want to do this in your class, I do this before tests. Yeah. There's a great video on YouTube, a woman named Judith Agnew. She's like a laugh at me. She's a professor somewhere in Canada. Has this most incredibly infectious laugh. Anyway, go to my website. There's a bunch of links. And if you're embarrassed starting out in class, use video. And it happens really easily. Anyway, notice good. Oh, gotta keep moving. Notice good things when they happen. And this is different than remembering good things in your life. That's past tense. That's remembering. This is, as it happens, this is mindfulness. Okay, and did you see Kung Fu Panda? Yeah, so you remember Grandmaster Ogway, who says, the past is history. And, not present yet. The future is mystery. The present, today is a gift. That is why we call it present. I say that was cool. And a teacher in China, I had forgotten that. A teacher in China named Mike Greenline sent me that from China. Because we are so busy. And do you know of a video, it's on the internet, about the basketball game? Some of you do, some of you don't. What I'd like you to do, and if you know it, please don't say it, don't explain it yet. You're going to see two teams playing basketball, and you need to count how many passes the white team makes. And if you want to really challenge yourself, count how many are air passes and how many bump passes. But that's if you really, doesn't really matter. Anyway, how many passes did the team in white make?
Count how many times the players wearing white passed the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes.
But,
Did you spot the gorilla?
how many did not?
For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla.
And,
If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game?
let's watch it one more time.
Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold.
Yeah, all that happened and we didn't notice because we were so
Looking
busy.
for a gorilla.
We were so busy counting the passes of the white team. This video is from a book called The Invisible Gorilla, and Invisible is turned invisible there. There are a whole bunch of videos on the website, some interesting psych studies. The authors at University of Illinois, psychologists, about perception and intuition, reversion. The point about mindfulness, the point about noticing good things as they happen is take time to smell the roses. Yeah. And what I sometimes do to introduce this idea in my classes is an activity called eating a blueberry with mindfulness. But I did that at KOTESOL at Sumyong a couple of years ago, and so I didn't want to do the same thing. I thought, well, what can I do? What we do is, the idea, you have eaten blueberries or raisins. Actually, I learned this from a John Kabat-Zinn video, where he does it with eating raisins, but I found my students are more likely to like blueberries than raisins. But when you do it really slowly, because the idea is you've eaten 1 million blueberries or 1 million raisins or 1 million cookies or whatever in your life, but so often we're eating and reading the newspaper or eating and watching TV or eating and talking to your spouse or partner, well, you know, just take time to actually eat. But I want to do something other than blueberries. And I had an interesting thing happen about a year ago. I was doing it was actually a lecture, not a workshop at a university about my experience, the experience I talked about at the Pachacutia, where I became a monk about a year and a half ago. And I was going to do an eating meditation with the audience. And like 2 days before, they said, oh, we just found out this is a new auditorium. They're not going to allow any kind of food, and especially not blueberries, because they're cloth seats. And so what do? So I relied on something, Tim, you know this, but instead of eating a blueberry with mindfulness, we're going to imagine a lemon with mindfulness. It's the same activity, and this is what I do with my students. And can I invite you to close your eyes? And in your mind, you can see a lemon in front of you. And feel what it feels like to pick up the lemon. Hold it in your hand. And take a knife and slice off a little bit. And as you do, hear that sound of the lemon juice spraying there. And pick up the lemon slice. Hold it by your nose. And inhale and smell that sharp, sour, fresh, lemony smell. Put it on your tongue. Notice that your tongue knows just where to put it. You're not chewing it yet. But that lemony scent just fills your mouth and fills your head. Now slowly start to chew the lemon. Make it last as long as you can. It's a hot summer day and this is so refreshing. And if you actually imagine it, your mouth is probably wet with slime because your mind was actually noticing the lemon. It's mindfulness. And mindfulness, you can open your eyes. Mindfulness is a great way to get students to slow down. Notice things. Notice good things as they happen. So, this activity, but I was just working with a partner, and 1 minute, think about all the good things in their lives right now. How many can they identify? The actual number of good things and bad things have little to do with happiness. What counts is our beliefs about the experience. People who like what they have are twice as likely to be happy compared to people who have a lot more. Which means you can be richer without it. He never comes out very happy with all that stuff. The key is to simplify. And with my students, we brainstorm ideas to savor. And an example I use is in a supermarket near my house. You walk in and you go through the door, and to the right there's a flower shop. And even if I'm not going to buy flowers, I'll go in there just to breathe. Yeah, and then another 10 meters in on the other side, there's a bakery. Fresh bread. And just savor the smell. Did you notice when you came here today, the beautiful textured trees on the campus? They're gorgeous. And you guys live in Korea, I live in Japan, but both countries have that really rugged, beautiful kind of, traditional, I don't know what you call it, that's the design style. Yeah. And it's beautiful, and most of us don't even see it because we walk by every day. Slow down and notice it. And some of you heard the Pachacutia when I talked about it becoming a novice monk in Thailand, which was one of the more interesting, I spent my summer vacation stories. But one of the things we did was Vipassana, mindfulness meditation. And that lemon thing was mindfulness meditation. You were actually noticing. Anyway, we did walking meditation, where it might take 20 minutes to walk from here to the other side of the river. And you total awareness, total mindfulness. It was wonderful. I thought, how can I share this with my students? And I thought, Mark, that is the dumbest thing you've ever done. Because if you're into it, it's great. But can you imagine walking into your class and saying, okay guys, today we're going to walk across the room and think about it. Hello. And there's no language involved. It's like, lift, over, down, shift. There's no language. It's like, that's really stupid. We can't do that. But what I came up with is something that's in your handout. And we'll try. Oh my goodness. I forgot to put it in your handout. If you come to the plenary, I know it's in the handout for that, but I'll just tell you about it. Human robots. Yeah, and that's some of the weirdest instructions I've ever read. It's like, work with a partner. A, you are a robot. B, you are the robot master, the robot controller. And they have a series of 6 tasks. And they're things like, walk across the room, open all the windows, open the windows with your right hand, close them with your left hand, and walk to the next window, etc. Go to the board, write your name backwards. I mean, like from the last letter. 6 little tasks like that you can do. But here's what I'm trying to get at the Vipassana meditation, mindfulness. Robot, number 1, you have to talk like a robot. So you must talk like this. And you must say what you're doing. So the robot master says, stand up. I am standing up. Turn right. I am turning right. Walk forward 5 steps. I am walking forward 5 steps. And just to make it more challenging, we blindfold the robots. And I'm sorry, I thought I put that in your handout, but I spaced it out. You can get a copy of the task sheet, and I've used it a lot of times now. And does it get a Vipassana meditation? I don't know. It does generate a whole lot of language, and your students are very aware of what they're doing. And it's hard enough to be challenging, but easy enough so they can do it. So that makes sense. But we're going to skip over that. Dealing with problems. Everybody has problems. Talvin Shamar at Harvard, who was Harvard's largest class, which is the positive psychology class, says, there are only 2 kinds of people who don't have problems: psychotics and the dead. Take your pick, right? We all have problems. I live in Sendai. It's been a tough year. But happy people know to move beyond it. Yeah? And so I have students, bad things happen to everyone. Everyone has problems. Happy people know in the past. Think of a problem you had in the past. How'd you get past it? Fell apart. And I can tell you, like the earthquake stuff, Sendai has been horrific. And everybody knows about post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Do you know about post-traumatic growth? It's another thing that psychologists study. Sometimes, and we've seen lots of cases of this, where people are just pulling together, helping each other. And they're, despite the horrors of March 11th last year, there have also been wonderful stories of people helping each other. And if we can look at things like that. And please notice when you add, this sounds terrible, doesn't it? Talk about something that's really bad in your life. No, this is actually a success story. This is something you went through and got past. Okay? Bad things happen to everyone. But faith and spirituality. I must say, I have a difficult time connecting with this with students because in Japan, religion is much bigger in Korea than it is in Japan. And I don't care what my students believe, but I like to get them to get that they are something bigger than themselves. Now, whether they see that as a spiritual thing in a religious sense, or just the fact that we're part of a group and we're responsible for each other, which students can be, and especially in group-oriented cultures, which is any Confucian culture, does make sense. Social connections and friends. Other beliefs, proverbs, things like this too will pass. That which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And do you know this one from John Tavis? You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And of course you know this one. When life gives you lemons, we can do better than that. make lemon butter sauteed chicken breast with baby asparagus. And this is my, actually, okay, proverbs and aphorisms can point out useful ways of looking at things. It can become positive self-talk. It can create self-fulfilling prophecies, although you need to be a little bit careful. Because if the student doesn't believe, you know, having students just say positive stuff, if they don't believe it, they feel like a hypocrite, and it's actually a negative. So what I find it useful to do is give students a bunch of them and have them choose something they like. Okay? And this is my favorite slide. You may have seen this earlier today, because Tim used it in both of his presentations so far today. This is a variation. This is my favorite slide in the whole presentation. A quote from the Buddha who said, "What we think, we become." All right. There were 8 happiness ideas. With your partner, don't look at the paper or memory game. Thank you. And here are the answers, which we don't have to go over again. They are on your handout, but yeah, important ideas. What I do, I introduce it to my students just the way we did it today with this dictation. Okay? And then a few weeks later, what's this? Our feelings reflect the things we do every day. Choose to be happy. Yeah. What is this? Yeah, this is a haiku. Our feelings reflect the things we do every day. Choose to be happy. 575. And yeah, and I teach in Japan, so this is very, very common. But there's something Korean that's kind of similar. It's longer than 575. But in both cases, it's something that grew out of Chinese culture. But you have this on the back of your handout. I have students work in a small group, and we're not going to do this because of time, but I was going to give you big sheets of paper, 3 sheets of paper, and number you off like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And everybody has their happiness item, and they write a haiku to reflect on it. And the first thing, dictation is a useful way to transmit information. It doesn't require very deep processing, deep thinking. Writing a poem does. And the nice thing about haiku is it's short enough. Giving rules makes it easier than to say, write a poem. How do I do that? 575, that gives it enough structure so they can actually do it. But we will skip over that, and I need to finish up, and I'll start shutting down. But I'd like to do time for a couple of questions, if that's okay. Q and maybe A, and I'd like to start with the first question, because I've had a chance to talk about positive psychology, happiness and stuff in Korea and in Japan and in Thailand and New Zealand, America, a bunch of different cultures and countries, and I tend to get 2 reactions. And one reaction is, great, I can use this is good for my students, and the other reaction is, great, but. And the but is like, I'd like to use this, but I don't have time. I have to teach a particular curriculum. I have to teach a particular textbook. Or, of course, the ever-present, Happiness is not approved by the Ministry of Education. Which is a real problem, right? And you don't need a course, you don't need to be teaching a seminar on positive psychology. My suggestion is steal time. And by that, I mean, you might not have a whole class, but you can usually find 10 minutes for a warm-up or a cool-down or an energy build or a fluency task. So I went back and wrote a bunch of activities called 10 Minutes for Happiness. These are all quick and dirty 10-minute activities you can easily plug into your classroom. So I hope you'll have a look at that. Now, we need to be out of here. Tim needs time to set up, but are there any questions or comments?
Do you have any students? Do you have any students who resist these activities? Maybe they don't want to be happy.
I have students who are skeptical initially, because they never had, this is like, but happiness feels good. And so I find most of the time, the complementing activity, they can see how it's a language activity, and they notice that it feels good. And I try to share with them the reasons that this is actually working on your English. This is actually, little things like, when you stand up, the 15% increase of blood to the brain, that's useful information for the students to learn. So when they know that there's reasons behind it, I think if I will do it, something like the laughter yoga, if I'll try it, they'll try it. And if they know why we're doing it. I have not had students fight it. I have students skeptical, but they're usually willing to go along with it. And I also, this is part of the mindfulness, like after the first activity, when I pointed out that you were mentally, that you were feeling that positive emotion again, it feels pretty good, doesn't it? And I find that kind of thing is useful. So that's my experience. Will there be, I must say, my university's not great up, but it's a reasonable level, but we have a really good culture where there's a lot of trust between students and teachers, very little antagonism either way, and I think this contributes to that. But I think I'm in a school where that kind of thing works, and I'm not sure everybody. You have somebody here?
I would just say last October, there was a recorded international conference. A woman prepared a study of forgiving in Korean textbooks, and it just basically was not taught in English. It's just it was taught, but I mean it was so minor a part of their study.
I can't think of much in other than sorry, that's okay, but anything deeper than that was
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I need to get out of here, so Tim can get set up. I'll be happy to talk to anybody outside, and then I hope you stick around for the plenary, which, as I said, is going to be like 90%, 85% different stuff. The plenary is called Happiness 2.0. It's actually going to be about well-being 2.0. Happiness being one part of a bigger picture.